Right, good evening, everybody. Hope you all are well. You can just switch to that. Right, tonight we're going to look at the capacitor. Now, they wrote a whole lot of information down there, and it's a good example of making a mountain out of a molehill. Capacitor is basically two plates that's relatively close together with some kind of insulation in between to prevent the two plates from touching, and they call that a dielectric. Now, obviously, sometimes those plates will just get too big to fit into a piece of equipment, so that what they do is they roll them up. So you've got two aluminium rolls with insulation in between, and that is a capacitor. Now, this is the symbol for a capacitor. So if you look on a diagram, you see something like that, then you know that is a capacitor with the two plates and the connecting points. What you will sometimes see is that your electrolytic capacitors are polarized. So they will make the positive end thicker, or they will mark it with a plus on the positive end. If you reverse polarize those capacitors, the inside tends to jump out, and that is not what you want to do. So if you have a polarized cap, make sure that the positive is on the positive and the negative is on the negative. And for that very same reason, you can't connect a polarized capacitor onto an AC line because it's going to explode. Now, capacitors has got the property known as capacitance, and the size of the plate and the distance between the plates influences the amount of capacitance the capacitor can store. Now, it basically works like a battery, but it charges very quick and it discharges just as quick. And the amount of energy that it stores depends on the size of the plate, and bigger the plate, more energy it can store, and it's measured in microfarads. So over here, they just explained to you how it charges up, and I'm going to skip all of this because I've basically told you exactly what they're telling here in short. So we know that capacitors comes in different values. The value of a capacitor is its capacitance, and it depends on the surface area of the plates. The greater the capacitance. The distance between the plates, the greater the distance, the lower the capacitance. So it's a balancing act. You want to have the plates as close as possible, but not too close, because then you'll have spark over, and then the capacitor is destroyed. And the dielectric constant, this constant is a material property of the dielectric, also known as the insulation material. The larger the dielectric constant, the greater the capacitance. The dielectric constant of a vacuum is 1, with air being very close to 1. And then a capacitor has also got like a small leakage. So if you charge a capacitor up, it will slowly discharge itself because of that leakage. Now, capacitors are measured in farad, and they range from 1 picofarad to 1,000 microfarad and even more. I mean, you get 1 farad caps that they use on mobile audio systems in order to make the power or the voltage drop less uh, to the amplifier when it pulls a lot of bass for that moment. They're marked in color codes or the amount in microfarad or MFD, or like in our case, I think I did explain it before. Let me just get this cap. So you'll see that capacitors are sometimes marked in UF. Now, the reason why you use the U there is because in order to find the micro sign, it's a problem. So whenever you want to search for a capacitor, you've got to find the micro sign. We originally had it in like that, and it was a horrible idea. Capacitors are always rated in microfarads and voltage. If the if you use this 1000 microfarad capacitor and you connect it to a voltage higher than 10 volts, the inside's going to come out. So obviously you cannot connect. You're not supposed to do that because you will destroy the capacitor. Um, let's go back to our book. Now, when you get a capacitor, is very handy when you use them in a DC circuit because it stabilizes the DC circuit. But when you apply that same capacitor, and you do get non-polarized caps, and that's what they call them. If you apply a capacitor to an AC circuit, that capacitor becomes a whole new animal. And of course, the calculations differ um, from normal behavior in a DC circuit. Now, that little squiggly thing there is what they use for, I think it's called a tilde. I don't know what if the name, if that's an Afrikaans name or it's a name in both languages, but that is used to indicate AC, alternating current. So in this case, this is an AC supply and the cap is connected there, and we're going to see what the cap does. Here they say again, there's a symbol, AC source. So if you see voltage with that symbol, you know that it's an alternating voltage or alternating current. And C represents the value of the capacitor. So if you have a V and a R and a C, the R would be the resistor and the C would be the capacitor, and the V would obviously be the supply voltage. Like I explained, the capacitor has a small leakage current, so it will self-discharge over a long period of time. But if it's a big cap, don't trust that it's discharged. We usually short circuit the capacitor with a screwdriver or something, and it can make a serious spark sometimes if it's charged up fully. I mean, I was busy working on a power supply earlier. I measured the cap on the rectified main side, and it was after I switched the power supply off, that was still standing at 250 volts. So it's going to give you a good jolt when you touch those terminals. So for that reason, you have to discharge the capacitor. and always have to discharge the capacitor if you store it as well, or if you want to measure the capacitor, because if you connect the capacitor at 250 volts to your meter, it will sure destroy your capacitor meter. Then we get to capacitive reactance. Now that is what a capacitor does when it's connected to an AC circuit. Now, capacitors, they don't like change. They are resisting change. And because the AC current is changing all the time, the capacitor is trying to keep it stable. And for that reason, it is out of phase. Now, this is the formula because I apologize. Um, because different capacitors has got different values, and then of course if you apply different frequencies to them, they also react differently. So we've got this formula that we can calculate how much resistance the capacitor causes in a specific circuit. Now that is the capacitive reactance, and that's the formula where 2 is 2, pi is the pi, and F is the frequency, and C is obviously the capacitor or the capacitance value. The reactance, and this is a question you're going to get in the exam, the reactance decreases as the frequency increases. But I'll show you later. There's a way that you can use other question answers to actually get to the question that they ask. So then X would then represent or would be similar as R. So then the same, once you've calculated your reactance, the same formula for DC would apply. Right, and they've given us an example here of, now I don't like it when they use one, like 1 volt and 1 nanofarad, because you'll see in the calculation just now, it's very confusing because you don't know which one is which one, which one is goes where, or that's what I'm trying to say. And okay, so we know that we have a voltage of 1 volt, 1 nanofarad, and 1 microfarad. So if we go to the actual calculation over here, get our calculator closer. So what we now want to calculate is we want to calculate what would the resistance be that the capacitor causes in this particular circuit. So there's once again 2 ways of doing it. We can do it like this, times hunt for the pi.
Henry, don't you need to divide that 1 divided by bracket?
I have to, yes. Right. Oh, here it is. Wrong place. Now this is where it becomes confusing, because now, although that is 1 megahertz, it causes well, at least to me that's confusing, because what should have been written there now actually is 1 times no, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Can I get it back? No, I can't. I apologize. Times 1 to that 6 times, and then once again we want 1 that minus 9, close the bracket, and then of course it's going to give us hopefully that answer. Indeed it did. And then of course there's another way. Let's do it the other way. We can say basically the same thing. As a matter of fact, what I can do is I can just grab that, take that away, and that gives us then the same answer. What I have done is I've added other values into the same equation so that a person can see where the values go in. So I've changed that to a 2, and I've changed that to a 2. So now we have 2 megahertz with a capacitor of 2 nanofarad, and we do the calculation, and then of course, like they said just now, the reactance will be less. It is indeed, and we know that formula works, so we know our answer is correct. And then we can go ahead and we can calculate the current that flows in that circuit, because we have calculated the reactance. And then we will take 1 divided by 159, and that will give us 0.00628 amp, which would be 6.3 milliamps. If we do our other one, we still have 1 volt. We divide that by 39.7, and that will give us 25 millivolts. Right. Does everybody understand this far? You understand that there's 2 plates, that there's an insulator in between, that there's an electric what did they call it now? Well, the electricity is stored between the plates. Electric field is stored between the plates, and that in an AC circuit, the capacitor acts like a resistor, and that can be calculated. Right. I believe everybody is happy there. Right, let's drop the calculator. Now, the capacitor is always 90 degrees out of phase. The reason for that is the blue line here. Let me just get my story straight now. No, the black line is our voltage, and the blue line is the current in the capacitor. So when the voltage turns at the top, there's very little change in the voltage. And that's when the capacitance, or the current through the capacitor, is at its lowest. Now, as this voltage starts to change from positive to negative, the maximum changes at this point. So then it basically goes down at a 45-degree angle. So the current through the capacitor is at maximum there. So we will say the current lags the voltage by 90 degrees. That's 0, 90, 180, 270, and 360 degrees. Right. Now they've got a whole explanation of what I just said now with why it's like that. But if you think in the way of the capacitor don't like change, and when there's maximum change, the current's going to be at maximum because he's going to resist it to the maximum. And then P equals VI, same calculation. We can use that, and we're going to do that just now. They're still on the same explanation. Now, capacitors in parallel. When we did the resistors, I told you guys that capacitors, the calculation for capacitors are exactly the opposite. So when you put capacitors in parallel, you simply add the capacitance together. So if you put 2000 microfarad capacitors together, you will have 2000 microfarad. But if you put them in series, then you use a similar calculation to the resistors in parallel, which is the 1 C total, 1 over C total equals 1 over C1 plus 1 over C2 and so on. And all you need to do there is they'll give you the formula. You must just remember where to use it. So resistors and capacitors are exactly the opposite. Right, then we get different types of capacitors. And I've got a picture here, ceramic capacitors, silvered mica capacitors, polycarbonate capacitors, electrolytic capacitors, and variable capacitors. So, it should be there. Wait, let's get that page there. And this supercapacitors, this is the same as electrolytic. There you can see this capacitor is 2.7 volts, 3,000 farads. So that is farads. It's a lot. That's almost like a battery. And then these are usually low tantalum capacitors, low values, nanofarads mostly. Ceramic capacitors are generally picofarads. Film capacitors, you'll see this a lot in AC circuits. They're also in nanofarads and picofarads. These are mostly picofarads, nanofarads, and each one of these has got something that makes them special. Sometimes it's price, sometimes it's accuracy. And then this is that silver mica capacitors, very, very accurate. And then this is a um, variable capacitor where you can actually change the surface area of the plates interacting with each other. Those plates never touch each other, they're just very close. This is what they call a variable capacitor, but it's an air gap capacitor. So these have got plastic in that insulated or some other um, polyester or polypropylene or whatever to insulate the plates from each other. These capacitors are quite pricey these days, and you'll see them a lot on the flea markets with the radio hams because you build your own antenna tuner as they call it, or radio protector as I call it. Right. This is the yes.
Sorry. So they marked AC or DC on
Uh,
those, but you
I
showed us
let me just
so
go
that you
back
don't.
here. You'll see these have got this black line on the side, or a line like this one, and the one leg is shorter than the others. So the positive on these got a longer leg, and the negative is where the line is and the shorter leg. So these capacitors are polarized, where if you go to these, that one will be, because you see there's a positive marking. So it shows you the positive side is on this side, and here's a negative marking, looks like it.
So that's DC then.
That's DC, that's correct, yeah. And then these are generally, I wonder if I can zoom in here. You see there's that little tilde, 275 AC. I can't see it very nice. Let's see if I can get even closer. It's not a very good quality photo, this. But 275, so AC. If the legs are, you see this one's got a longer leg, so this one's going to be polarized, and there they've got the positive sign. So if the legs are the same length, they're generally not polarized. But when the one leg is longer than the other, then it is definitely polarized. And you'll have it like this. Now, there's a way. This one is now 22 with 6 zeros, but this would be I think this would be a 2.2 nanofarad capacitor. I'll just have to look. I'm not sure. 100 volts. So you can use this up to 100 volts. So you'll typically find that capacitor in some circuit where the voltage is not that high, like in a speaker or something. This is a bit of a low value for speaker filtering, but they can use that something like this. These are generally low value capacitors, 50 volts or less. This one is the rating is written on it. This one should also have a rating on it, but these are generally 50 volts. And this one has got 1K 14. I can't see nicely. But generally, when the legs are the same length, then they are non-polarized, like these. And then when the one leg is longer than the other one, just see if we can see a capacitor where there's actually a value written on it. No. Right. Does that explain your question?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. This is a symbol for a variable capacitor. Once again, you're going to get this one is this. You can set it like a tuner for a radio. So the old radios where you've got the dial that you spin round and round, got a capacitor like this in. But in combination with this capacitor, they've got other ones that they've trimmed. And the ones that they've trimmed is not user adjustable, so that will have a flat line there. Means that you're not supposed to adjust it while using the instrument. You only use the one that is like this for in-use adjustment. In summary, a capacitor consists of two conductors separated by an insulating dielectric. The capacitor have a property known as capacitance, which is the ability to store energy in an electric field between the conductors. The energy is stored when the capacitor is charged and released when it is discharged. The capacitance of a capacitor depends on the surface area of the conductors, the two plates, the distance between the conductors, and the dielectric constant of the insulating material. So let's just recap that last sentence. The capacitance of a capacitor depends on the surface area of the conductors, also the plates, the distance between the conductors, and the dielectric constant of the insulating material. In AC circuits, capacitors inhibit reactance, which opposes the flow of current. Like I said, these oaks don't like change, so they resist it. Although the reactance is measured in ohms, it's not the same as resistance, and as no energy has been dissipated. The reactance of a capacitor is given by the formula which we just did just now. Ohm's law can be applied using the magnitude of reactance in place of resistance. We also said that. And then they've got V over VIR, which is in this case substituted with the X because that's the reactance. And that is pretty straightforward. For capacitors in parallel, we add them together. And capacitors in series, we use that formula that looks like the resistors in parallel formula. So they said there's many different capacitors suited for different purposes. Some capacitors are more, the tolerance is lower, which you'll use for very specific situations where you want to generate, for instance, accurate frequency. And then in power supplies, you'd use electrolytic capacitors that is very inaccurate, but in a power supply, it doesn't matter. You just want to smooth out your AC. Or at least the DC that the AC that you converted to DC. Variable capacitors were once used as tuning controls in many radios, and I think most of us are old enough to know that you used to spin the dial around and then you lose the signal and you tune it a little bit, and then on the later ones the stereo light used to go on and off, and yeah, those were the days. Right, then we get to the questions. I thought we were going to be busy for longer, but we didn't do it in quick time. Right, the phase shift between voltage and current in a capacitor is?
90 degrees.
Correct. If three capacitors of 1 microfarad each are connected in parallel, the equivalent capacitance is?
3 microfarad.
That's correct. A capacitor of 250 picofarad is required to resonate a tuned circuit. A 100 picofarad capacitor is connected in parallel to a variable capacitor. What value must the variable capacitor set to achieve resonance? Okay, they need 250. We have 100 and we connect something in parallel. So if we have 100, well, which one must we add?
150.
Correct.
Yep.
This one made me dumb. Yes. This next one.
Yeah, there is somewhere, I don't know whether we've done it already or we're still going to do that, where you're going to learn these pico, nano, but you basically get micro, then you get nano and pico, and each one of them move 3 zeros. So if you're going to move 1,000 picos to nanos, you're going to take 3 zeros away. So 1,000 picofarad is 1 nanofarad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we did go through that, I think, early on, right in the beginning of the book somewhere. But yeah, I need to
Yeah, you
write
know
stuff
what?
down on paper, I guess.
Yeah,
I-
you'll have to. You know what? It takes practice, and I'm fortunate. I work with these things every day, so I mean, I'm constantly busy converting and calculating and whatever. So, but
I
that's
think
something.
earlier. Oh,
Sorry, go
sorry,
ahead.
Henry. No, I think earlier in the book, I don't think they ever mentioned the Pico prefix. So maybe that's why Cliff, like, yeah, it wasn't mentioned, but the whole table, I guess you can find it online or something.
Well,
But
that's
yeah,
it. Yeah, something you've got to just play around with it to convert these things from microfarad to picofarad. You know, so you know where you are, because uh, um, if you do a calculation and they're going to tell you that they want the answer in, for argument's sake, nanofarads, then you must be able to convert it like I've done with the milliamps just now. But it's just, you've got to just practice it, that's all.
Okay, now I get it. Yeah, now I'm just looking at this table again. They gave it in chapter 3. Now it's making more sense to me. Okay, now I
oh,
see.
okay.
All
I
right.
didn't even know
Uh-huh.
they gave Pico there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Pico
good.
is right at the top, and they obviously give that as a 10 to the minus 12. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think one thing I heard was like, so a lot of them are Latin prefixes, but like nano sounds like 9, nano. So it's like to the -9, 10 to the -9. So I think I always use that as a base reference.
Okay. Well, that's another way of, I mean, I never even thought of that. But Marty's also got strange ways of remembering things sometimes. Right. The energy in a charged capacitor is stored in the
Electric field
between the
Four.
between the
plates.
Oh,
plates.
see.
Yeah.
See, that's right, Joe. Right. Okay, the unit for capacitance is called
Farad.
farad. Yeah, that's
Farad.
E. Farad. Um, what is the total capacitance of two similar capacitors connected in parallel?
I said twice.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Twice.
That's correct. What do the units microfarad and picofarad specify? Capacitance. Sorry, that me. It's just I can't help myself. I was supposed to keep quiet.
Obviously, this is a good prime example of where the incorrect ones are.
That's correct. Yeah, yeah. Right now, here's a question that I'm gonna say. Oh, yeah. Okay. As the plate area of a capacitor increases, the capacitance.
Increases.
Should increase.
That's
Yeah.
correct. Yes. Okay. Which of the factors below would not influence the capacitance value of a capacitor?
Voltage.
Correct. The others, they explicitly told us that these influences the capacitance, but voltage doesn't, because voltage wasn't mentioned. The magnitude of the reactance of a capacitor.
C. Decreases.
C.
Yeah.
Increasing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's correct. Yes. Okay, the capacitive reactance of a 16 microfarad capacitor, 40 volt, 100 hertz. So we've got to quickly pull our calculator closer.
Yeah, also I'm getting 9,9, so I'm doing something wrong with my exponents, I'm sure.
We'll sort that out in a couple of. You just get my script notes. Right, we start with that, and we say 2 times pi times the frequency, which is 100 hertz, times the capacitance, which is 16 minus 6. And we say that. Okay, so now where did you make your mistake?
I'm following yours on my calculator. Maybe I'm set up wrong here or something. I'm still
Okay,
getting
you
this
know what you must
9,9.
do. I've had this problem before, and some calculators, and that's why it's so important that you. I'm going to do it in another one.
Is it not the decimal placement on these things? I can't
No,
remember.
what you need to do is you need to say 2 times pi times 100 times 16 times 1 minus 6. Try it like that and see if you get to the right answer.
Okay, let me check quickly.
And that's why it's so important.
Yeah, now I'm getting it. Yeah.
Yeah, so some
Okay.
calculators, and I've had it with some calculators, if you don't say 1 times 10 to the, so it's 16 times 1 times, so you must always add that 1 times 10 to the equation. Otherwise, you get that problem. I don't.
Make a big note.
That's it. You know what? And that's why it's so important that you can't borrow a calculator when you walk into the class, because you need to know. It's almost like lending somebody else's donkey. You don't know how the thing's going to react. You need to know your calculator. So if I do that calculation, I'll get to the same answer. But I've had this problem before, and I can't remember which one it was that I had the
That's
problem.
probably why I couldn't get. Also, that previous example we had, I also was getting a 1,59, so that was also the same thing. I was also going to
That's the
recheck
one
that.
thing.
Yeah.
And say for argument's sake, sometimes what people will do is, if they say, for argument's sake, say that it was 10 microfarad, then they would say it is 1 to the 5, 1 to the minus 5. Yes. 1 minus 5. What I do is I write it, if that was a 10 microfarad capacitor, I will write the 10 times 1 to the minus 6. Because then my answers are always correct. If you start to mess around, well, at least if I start to mess around with the zeros, then my answers it's not reliably correct. In your case, with your calculator, if you want to do the same, you'll have to say 10 times 1 minus 6.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Sure. Right. So once again with this one, um, now here they ask. Let me just move my calculator out of the way. If a frequency of AC applied to a capacitor is doubled, the capacitive reactance will be
Halved.
halved, and we
Yes,
can
halved.
confirm that by you know that we had 100 there, so if we say we use that equation and we put there 200, it's 50. So we've confirmed our answer. We doubled the frequency and we halved the capacitive reactance. And that was a very successful, easy chapter that they made unnecessarily long with a lot of writing. Is there anybody that don't understand anything? Anybody that's calculator is not behaving like it's supposed to?
Yeah, no, this thing came out of Noah's Ark. I think I still used it. Yes, yeah, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. I don't know.
Yeah, these calculators, every single one of them are different. Because in my day, we used to type in the figure and then we would push the square root, for instance. Now with the newer calculators, you have to push the square root button first and then you enter the information. Where the old FX82s and those things, you used to say the square root of this, but to find the square root of 16, you typed in 16 and pressed the square root button. If you do this now on the new calculators, it says error, syntax error. But yeah, what I would usually do is I would, once again, these numbers, I usually do make my example math so that it doesn't work out on a 10 or something, because that can very easily be interpreted as something else, or divided. There's a 1, but you don't know that it is the part of the formula and not actually a figure that you put in there. Right, so next week, no, not next week, Thursday, we're going to do inductance and the inductor, and then I'm going to be watching from the side for a while and taking a break. So then Johan is going to do, I think it's Johan, then it's me again, and then Louis is also going to do something in between, eh? Yeah. Let me just. Yeah, you'll see here that these capacitors are typically 50 volt capacitors. That one's 100 volt, and I've got them in 400 volts. These are all non-polarized, and this one is 63 volt. And then here you'll see that this one is now written 104, and this one is also 104. So 104 is 100 nanofarad. So I think that is.
Henry,
Yes.
do we get a table for Pico Nano Micro in the
No.
formula sheet? Not.
No, you've got to know those things. You got to know. You have to know that micro is -6 and nano is -9, and I think pico is -12, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you.
Um, what else do we have here? There is a variable capacitor. Very small, and this would be a very low voltage, and that's a 10 picofarad. So you can imagine how small is the change that this thing can, and this is usually used to tune uh, the crystal oscillator in your watch. Well, not an Android watch, a one that keeps time by itself. They've got a crystal oscillator there, and they can actually tune that crystal oscillator to oscillate at exactly the right frequency. So that is what those are used for. And then this is a fixed one, 10 picofarad. There it says 50 volts, 10% tolerance, and the pin spacing is 2.5 millimeters. Usually when you go over about 1 microfarad, from there on, capacitors generally becomes, now I say generally, becomes polarized, but you do get, or you used to get, we don't have them anymore. Now these were typically used in a speaker, although this picture is not correct. It says the image is for reference only. It just shows you that it's a capacitor, but NP, non-polarized, and you will see also non-polarized capacitors will have the NP on the side, and they won't have that line. They were used, this one particularly is used in a crossover network, which once you've done inductors and capacitors, you will actually be able to build your own crossover network for your speakers, because the only thing, or only thing that a crossover network is basically a filter. It lets some frequencies through to certain points and other frequencies it cuts off. So you've got a low pass and a band pass filter and a high pass filter, and you'll be able to calculate all of that. Right, I'm going to stop the recording.